Peter Baloh is a founder and partner at E2Grow, community of 110 coaches that solve organizations' most pressing problems by creating thriving organizations, teams, leaders, and individuals. He has led and completed over 100 projects that brought change and tangible performance improvements to their clients, such as Pfizer, Fenord, Ricard, Bayer, Electrolux, Telecom, Austria Group, and others. He designs impactful learning and coaching interventions and tools that move participants to their best version of themselves sustainably. He has a PhD, sorry, Dr. Peter, in knowledge management systems from the University of Ljubljana and the University of Washington. Ladies and gentlemen, with a rousing virtual round of applause, kindly welcome on set.
Thank you.
Baloh.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here, and I'm looking forward to the discussion and exciting opportunity to be with you here.
Great. And thank you just for being on set and constantly. I love the fact that we are able to connect. I know you are very, very, very busy. But doctor, tell us this journey. Tell us your journey as to how you became a doctor, because and I'm interested in knowing, knowledge management systems. Tell us about it.
I think when I was, I only learned about my talents and strengths later on in life after getting the PhD, but it made sense when I learned about my profile. So this is where I got to understand why I wanted to pursue that PhD, because it's a tremendous labor. And, many times it's just like, oh my God, this is just too much work for what, right? So I was trying to find a reason in myself back in the early days when I was doing it. But anyway, I was, intrigued by learning about new things, solving pressing things that organizations did not solve yet. So that's why I was very much interested in the technology and how to, connect it inside the organizations. And that's what it led me to, research first and reading about things. And then I spotted, oh, this is something that has not been covered yet. So it was like, I need to learn about this so I can bring it to organizations. At that point, it was just how to connect knowledge inside the organization. So that was my point of interest 10 years ago, 15 years ago now. I got that PhD. It's the learner, the focus, the achiever, I think, in me that got me there. But yeah, I'm thankful for the opportunities that provided the sort of studies in PhD provided me with the rigor and the discipline, I think, and the consistency that you need to have, which helped me then later on sort of in life as well. There's only one thing: I cannot write a prescription, or I cannot give you a sick leave. So that's a down thing from being a doctor, but not really being a doctor.
Yes. So and I'll get to that, because somehow if you manage to become a doctor, that means that you have some subject matter expertise when it comes to a particular area, and we do not take this for granted. Just so that we get this in the right perspective, can you please tell us how you got onto this journey of strength? How did you get into the journey called strength?
I don't know. I guess for many people, right, is this luck or coincidence? Because if you look at this perspective of strengths, right, and if you look at the numbers, Gallup has made it to 25 million or something, right? The 25 million have known or learned about the strengths, which comparing to the rest of the population, it's not that much if we are true to ourselves, basically. So not many are fortunate enough or have that moment when they can get introduced to strengths. But for me, it was a very interesting journey, I think. So I was in different careers in academia, and at first in consulting and then academia, and I was doing my own consulting jobs. And then I went into full-time executive roles, industrial, in the industry, in professional, in companies. And then I was just so sort of frustrated. And really, looking back, I was the worst manager I could be, because of all the strengths, were in my overdrive. They were in overdrive, achiever, focus, and so on. Right, really being the micromanager and the critical manager, and so on. But anyway, I just left the whole environment, moved to Australia with my family, so left everything behind here. And then in this moment, like, I joined a team in Australia where there was this thriving environment. Like, this was for the first time. I was, how old was I? 35 or something, a bit more even. And for the first moment in time, I was actually living and breathing and enjoying every single day of my work. So it wasn't like I got to go to work, but it was more like I can get to go to work, right? So it was like this, every day was an opportunity for me to enjoy the work. And for me, this was so new, right? Enjoying that flow and timelessness, that I started looking into this and saying, how is this possible, right? How can this team in this company be and have this kind of environment? And then the other team next door or next floor, they were dreaded and, disengaged and so on. So that was like, for me, oh my God. So it's not just a company, but it's like, there must be a manager or something, right? That he can get this best out of ourselves. And for me, it was really interesting when this manager, Paul Woods, he hired, there were so many people coming in. And for me, it was so weird because they came in and there was no like specific role that they were coming in. So we were just hiring people in a team, and then suddenly the job got crafted, right? So what are you good at? And people said, this is this and this and this we are good at. And then somehow magically through the conversations, they found a role which was fitting, and they just put that person there. So for me, this was completely new. And then I came across Gallup back then in 2014. That's 7 years ago. I came across Gallup, and then I realized it's not just this person, the manager, that can actually do his magic or be a charismatic leader and get the best out of people, but there's actually a way to find what people are good at, and it's good to be whatever they are, and they should be what they are and do the things they want to do, because they will be so much more productive and so much less with less stress, things will get done and so on. And this is when I got my profile, and I was like, oh my God. For me, it was just crazy, like just connecting all the successes and the unsuccesses to the talent profile. But yeah, that was it. It's a bit long story short. It was just amazing experience. I had to travel the continents, leave one country behind, move to another one, and just in that moment in time, if it was just like I went to this other team in that same company, that would not happen at all. So I describe it as a coincidence. My number 13 talent is connectedness, but I think it's higher. So I think, I say it's a bit of a luck as well, maybe. But hey, this is the opportunity we got, and then I just embrace it with all my heart and hands.
Wow. Okay, and I love the bits as to the accident element, and I don't actually think it's an accident. I also don't believe in coincidences. I think that somehow, either by the elements or by the universe, you were just constricted to get into that, because you seem to be doing a lot of great things with E2Go, with also helping other coaches live their best life. But I'm not even going to start to talk about that now. So when we started, I recall you said something about your achiever was on overdrive. You said you had your maximizer or a few of those things on overdrive. Now, for those that are joining us, this is Strength Discussion Series, and I have my guest, Dr. Peter Baloh. Yeah, and he's told you it's not the doctor that is able to give you a prescription for drugs, and neither can he give you an excuse or a medical leave. All right, but is in the knowledge segment. Okay, and having said that, the Strength Discussion Series is usually with strength coaches and people in the human capital space, just so that we can have discussions to help create workplace solutions, enact cultures that are enabling for people to collaborate, which ultimately provokes productivity, profitability, and efficiency at work. So, Doc, and please, I hope you don't mind me calling you Doc.
No,
So tell
no
me,
worries.
back to that discussion as to the overdrive. So just start up with what the strengths are, then tell us how people can get into an overdrive, or turning up the volume, or basement, as some people will call it. Okay, please share.
Yeah, so I think that was one of the most fascinating moments, right? So one thing is understanding, okay, we've been through these psychological profiling, so MBTI, DISC. So you come across different things, and they describe your personality, for example. But with strengths, it was the first time that I sort of could connect, what my profile is, to the past successes, which thing, seems, yeah, of course, this is why we're talking about strengths, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what's the biggest, at least the biggest insight for me was, oh my God, like these top 5, they are the most responsible also for my failures, right? So it's not about not having particular talents or having them lower in the, in the rank.
Order. Yeah.
But it's more like, what do I do with what I am, not what I don't do or what do I do wrong with what I don't have. So, and that very thing, being yourself, this is who you are, right? I can only be myself. So I have my top 10. This is, these are responsible for 90% of my mind flow, how I think. And this is what I can control. This is what I can focus on managing, right? So this is what I can tune up or tune down. How I apply talents is what makes me successful. So how I apply my top 5, let's say, is what makes me successful or a failure, right? And in this way, right, you can either how we see it, right, or how I see it is, you can misapply your talents, right, in a way that you put it in overdrive, so it's too much of an achiever or too much of a maximizer, which is actually holding me back then, right? I'll give an example. So the maximizer, which is my signature, my really favorite talent, is the one also that got me into trouble. Because of the maximizer, I was doing things in too much detail. I was doing things too long, right? So I was missing deadlines. I was frustrating people in my team because I wanted to be everything extremely perfect, right? So if I printed out a report, maybe this one, right, something like this, if it wasn't, printed with the right tone of gray or right tone of color, I would print it 3 times over and over, right? And maybe spend hours before going into a workshop or somewhere, like maybe even 2 hours before the workshop at 6 in the morning, I was still fine-tuning the whole night, the presentation, which was not needed to be tuned. And it would be much easier or better if I went to sleep, in midnight, and then get the rest that I needed to be my perfect me, right? So in that sense, Maximizer was on overdrive because it was focused just on some little thing which was not connected to what my success will be. And the success is giving that workshop really well. And that is not connected to how that letter on the PowerPoint presentation looks like. But Maximizer could be focused in wrong things and just do it too much, right? And in that sense, it's really, the talents are really powerful stuff. But if they are, it's like with music, right? If you put everything in the red, right, in full blast, then the volume, in full blasting volume, then the music will not be nice, right? It has to be just right somewhere there. Absolutely. And obviously, if you turn it off completely, nothing happens as well. So it's like that cruising speed or the cruising, volume that I want my talents to be in, and that's the secret of fine tuning towards the successes. It's an ongoing pursuit.
And I quite align or agree with some of the the things that you experienced when you started to realize that you have strengths, but these strengths could actually be a limitation if not properly used. So usually I refer to this as the abuse of your strengths. Okay, and my own example was where I had an overdrive was around my second strength. That's the command strength, and I created a lot of enemies, even though it was a strength, but it was only supposed to be used in time of crisis, all right, or chaos. And there I was using it every time. And so I cultivated a lot of enemies, all right. And that eventually just meant that the strength was not serving the purpose for which, it was there for. And I love the fact that you've also shared your own basement effect. And so on our page, the Strength Africa page yesterday, one of our colleagues posted something and said, "Hey, what's your strength and how do you bring it to play?" And I immediately prompted, that look, my own strengths are in the areas of strategy and direction, and I use my strategy and my command to achieve that. The one of the other persons said, "Look, I have includer." Okay, and in our discussion, I was able to say, "Hey, it's possible that includer, if not used properly, can be a detriment to the positive output of your work." And I gave her a few materials to read. Now, so tell us, when you came to this understanding that your strengths can be in the overdrive or you could also be underplaying your strengths, how did you readily adjust? How and what are the things you started to do? Okay, and not to preempt your question, your answer is that for us or for me, I moved from the point of first understanding myself, and then I came to a point where I started to appreciate myself, and then I came to some semblance of mastery, but I'm not there yet. So tell us, is this the same kind of experience you had? And if it is, how did you move from awareness to mastery?
I think the curse with the strengths is that the more you practice it, the farther you see the mastery level, right? So I'm not even close. And I think today it appears to me that I'm further away than, let's say, the day when I learned about my strengths, right?
Uh-huh.
So the more you practice, obviously you do get better, but still there's so many opportunities that you still see, right? And this is maybe my maximizer kicking in again, in that sense, right? So when do you master something? I think it just, it's that being aware of and really truly, sensing all the time. Am I happy with these successes? Am I really balancing, life and professional life and family and myself? So the three pillars that, for example, I see as a life, right? So am I successful in all of these three, right? So I always juggle sort of daily, still today, right? I daily think about, okay, have I done everything to the best I could, right? Have I applied my talents in the best way? And I think that mastery or, fine tuning or that self-awareness, the more you are self-aware and what you do, and the more you are thinking about that, I think the better you are then. Because, and again, this is I think this is the most profound thing with the talents, right? When you realize these are your, let's say, top five, right? This is your talents, period. Yes. And this is the tools that you've got available. Now, what you do with these tools, and I love to, show hands. This is my top five. This is the other five. So this is my top 10. And these are the only things I can work with. And it's all about me and my consistency or maybe discipline or, how do I calibrate myself on a daily basis? What do I do to get to the best outcome? So it's just that constant aligning of my behaviors and thinking, okay, how can I use my talents today or, to get to the best outcome maybe this week?
Okay, so I clearly understand that. So there's never a point where you truly get there. So it's a journey, okay? And the more you become aware of yourself, the more it seems as if you're farther away from mastery, all right? But somehow you're actually gaining mastery of yourself. It's just that you are now further fully appreciating yourself and wondering, wow, I've been in the wrong direction and now I'm in the right direction. Okay, I'm having a great time here already. For those that are going to be watching or tuning in after now, you need to understand that the Strength Discussion Series comes to you every Thursday. And today, our special guest, Dr. Peter Baloh, is invested in strengths to the extent that he's also co-founded a company that is working towards helping coaches, all right, deploy the strengths philosophy effectively and to work with teams and organizations. Doc, do you mind telling us about the E2Grow and how it's and how long you guys have been in existence and how you are helping to take home the strength philosophy so that people can become very effective as coaches?
Yeah, so when I did realize, if I go back to that Australian story, right, when I did realize that you can have so much more fun, basically, so much less stress and be so much more productive, right, and move mountains, basically, when you work in that zone, right, when you apply your talents on a daily basis, right, when you think about that, then the quality of life completely changes, right, and the success, how you're achieving that is just, it's infinite almost, right? You can get much better in anything basically that you do today, regardless of what it is, right? So that is the fact, right? This is something that we do know. And that became then sort of my purpose, right? This is something that we do need to unlock. I was working in consulting and so on, right? In improving things and doing, improving companies, how they work, how they perform. And basically just realizing, right, so many companies and so many, let's say, teams and so on, right, we all always think about, okay, what is the next thing that can help me be better? And then companies invest in, I don't know, in just a little bit better machines, a little bit better CRM systems, a little bit better IT and so on, right? But the improvements there are very marginal, right? Very little improvement or better productivity comes out of something new technologically, perhaps, right? And truly, the how to unlock the productivity and what companies can achieve is through people. So that's the core of what then became. This is what I need to help unlock this world. And yeah, then we went on a journey. I know that organizations daily we see daily suffering of people. Improper feedback, not good leadership, and so on. We see that in all the statistics, right? Lack of engagement globally, right? We are only at about 15% people engaged globally, right? Which is just crazy. So 85% of people struggle daily. So this is the really oppressive problem, right? And this is what we went to change. And why we went into this and what we are doing basically is we know, so Gallup is providing us, and we have understanding of what is the golden behaviors, right? We know how great leaders lead, what's a great feedback. We know that we want to, or we need to unleash strengths of people, right? So we do know there's certain behaviors in teams and individuals and leaders, these 3 points that we just need to repeat, right, and need to happen. Now, the only problem is just like with fitness or with sports, right? You do know you need to train, eat healthier, train, and so on, right? But right, do we do this, right, or we don't do it? And then it's like, okay, how do we take an average sportsman, for example, right, and we make it a world-class champion? And it's the same with organizations. So how can we take an average team or an average organization or just a regular individual and then put him onto a journey to become better, right, towards that mastery that we explained earlier? And this is what we then sort of created, and that was 7 years ago. We started working on this, and we started building that journey so that we can go in and say, okay, let's take a look at this team, just ask a few questions, right, first, and then put them into, let's say, a team coaching session, individual coaching session with a team leader, right? What is it that we do, let's say, in 2-3 months to get them to perform at a much, much better level? So they apply strengths, they sync with each other, and so on. So that's what we do in the Eat to Grow. And that's that journey of taking someone, a team, organization, or an individual towards and move them towards that behavior. This is the Eat to Grow, what the Eat to Grow is.
Okay, thank you for that. And I just wanted to ask, is the Eat to Grow platform essentially for strength coaches or for other coaches? You know, because we have other people that are going to be watching even after now. And I just wanted to have you say, is this strictly for certified strength coaches or for other coaches in a bid to organize themselves?
It's for those coaches that are familiar with the Gallup strengths philosophy, right? So you have about, I think globally, there's about 10,000 Gallup certified coaches, but there's about 30,000 that practice Gallup strengths, right? So you have coaches that have worked with strengths, with Gallup strengths and so on, you know, for extended period of time, but they have not been, let's say, fortunate enough, or they did not see the need to become Gallup certified. I truly, it's amazing journey that Gallup provides, right? So anyone that, you know, can afford or is fortunate enough to go through this, I really encourage this, right? But otherwise, the Eat to Grow can be used obviously by those who are, you know, just familiar with the Gallup strengths concept and practice it sort of in a coaching way, right? The Gallup strengths is not, that journey, right, that I explained, the strengths are quite important part of it, right? But there's also other parts that are important to it, right? So it's not just that you would have to be a great strengths coach, for example. You know, that's one part of it, being able to get or being able to use the Gallup strengths and practice it. But it's also the other things, right? The pure coaching competencies that people, that sort of facilitators need, right? So in that sense, we have some people, obviously, which are coaches that are very, very successful and do great stuff with Gallup, with Clifton strengths, but they have not certified yet. They have not been certified yet by Gallup. So it's not strictly for Gallup certified coaches, but in essence, it's one really, really important part in the journey of, let's say, a team when you help them to become way better and perform better. So it's really advised that you know or have practiced strengths to some extent, at least, so that you know what the talents are, the whole concept, overdrive, and so on.
Okay, so so thank you for that insight as to the Eat to Grow. At some point, I also wanted to deploy or go in for the certification to use Eat to Grow. One of the challenges I had was that we had not built up the clientele to the extent that we could accommodate the expense of this platform, okay, with regards to what we're doing. So we're basically currently doing one-on-one coaching and then getting a few gigs here and there. And so when we did the cost-benefit analysis, it was clear that we needed to also build, more corporate clients and then focus on teams. Okay. Now tell me, beyond Eat to Grow, when you hear about teams and when you hear about the issues or the challenges teams are faced with in organizations, from your own insights, what do you think is the major cause of this challenge? All right. What would you attribute as a major cause for friction or challenges in the workplace?
I think the first one, really important one, is that inability of seeing people as people, and as something, as individuals with strengths, with contributions, right? We are so fixed in our own way of thinking because of the talents, right? Which is good in one way, obviously, right? But if we don't let others to be themselves and it bothers us because they are not the same as we are, right? Then this causes conflicts, basically, and miscommunication in all sorts of levels, right? So I think it starts with that, ability to see others. I'm good, you're good, right? I'm great, you're great as well with talents, right?
Yeah.
So that's one way. I mean, that's one element. And the other one is ability to lead, right? That the leadership, right? The skills of leadership. Like no one is teaching leaders, right, to actually lead. They grow somehow, right? They are in this company and they grow into that position. They're maybe really good in expert, let's say the best salespeople, and then they become the sales team leader, right? And so on. So that, right, just that very fact, is there a license to lead, right? There's all sorts of licenses, like for doctors, for, whatever practice, like, expertise, technical, licenses and so on. But for leadership, there's none, basically, right? There's none. You just go to this whatever school, and it's like suddenly you're a leader, right? Even though if you had no, actual experience with leadership, and this is causing that, okay, suddenly I'm a leader, right? And that means I'm capable of leading. But that I see that curiosity of what actually means to be a leader and what do best leaders do. That is missing, right? Leaders are afraid to admit, right? Like they got into the leadership position. Will they say now to the HR, hey, by the way, I don't know how to lead. Can you send me now to a leadership course? No way, right? They would shoot themselves in the knees. And that's what causes a really huge friction as well, because the best leaders know how to, create that kind of environment. They can have these, what we know as great conversations, right, that need to happen. There is a cadence, a frequency of meaningful conversations that best leaders do and have, right? What do I say on a weekly level, on a weekly, in a weekly meeting? What do I say on a monthly meeting? How do I develop people? How do I steer a team through a challenge, right? All of these things are conversations that leaders should have. There's about 5 to 10 of them, right, that they should be able to master. But it's really interesting that if they knew how to do this, then we would not have that high level of disengagement. So 85% of people are not engaged with me, which means 85% of leaders are not doing their job really properly, right? And in that sense, that's the other thing that's causing issue, right? The leaders that are not creating that sort of thriving environment and pushing others to sort of align, to see each other and so on, that causes huge pain as well and conflict.
Well, and that's very valid. Whilst you were speaking, I just managed to laugh because I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and he talked about, and I had to go back to what he said. He said that, and today is, by the way, today is International Children's Day, and so we celebrate all the children, but every adult also has a child in them, okay? Now, this my friend said something yesterday, say that he was referring to my generation, and he said that majority of those in my own generation, okay, can be referred to as adult children, okay? And almost like you said that there's no direct place people go to and get a certification on how to be a leader, notwithstanding the various coaches that we have, but we have that, we understand that people deal with certain limiting beliefs, all right, certain nuances, certain, some mindset, and this hinders them from fully coming to fore. So rather than leave, they try to aspire or admire the other person as coming to a full discovery of himself or him or herself. So tell me, what advice do you have for these folks? You have someone that is fully grown, so it could be a 50-year-old, it could be a 60-year-old, it could be a 40-year-old, but yet is still operating as a child. Okay, even though it's okay to have a semblance of a child when it comes to faith, when it comes to our fearlessness, our curiosity, and even in terms of our resourcefulness. But there's also a role to be an adult, also as you lead. So can you tell us how we could balance this, and how people that are still childish as adults can come to becoming full adults, being effective?
Oh, wow. That's a very deep question. To be honest, I'm not sure how to answer this. It's a very deep question. So in a way, right? I mean, just labeling people as being childish, I have an issue with that, right? Because it means, right, if I have the opportunity to tell them this, then that means I'm probably either their superior, right? Or somewhere at the same level, which directly means that I have contributed to this as well. Right? So that's why I'm having issues with telling them something, because I have this feeling that I contributed to this as well. Right? If they are, let's say, in the same, if they're, in my team or in the same company, right? So in that way, I feel that guilt, and it's like, okay, what it is that I can do, not tell them not to behave this way, but like, what is it I can do to make that, to improve that, right? So that's why I'm struggling with this answer. But in a way, I mean, I think I think the HR and the HR should be having this kind of a conversation. It's like, okay, who do I name the manager, right? Have we equipped them with what they need to be the managers, right? To have those roles. Because if I'm the manager, right, and I select someone, now you're a manager, right? And especially if he has not managed before, right? So he hasn't been a leader before, and I suddenly give that person a title and obviously the responsibility to lead people, then I should be the one providing that person with the opportunities to be able to learn what the best leaders do. Because otherwise I'm just telling them you're responsible now for something, and I don't give, I don't care what it is that you do. I'm not developing that person in a way to be able to fulfill that role, right? So I'm just giving them, the responsibility to do something, and then I'm not giving them the tools or the knowledge or the information how to do this. So in that sense, it's like, okay, right? I should be sending them before they get to the leadership position where they have ability to lead a team, for example, or even just two people, right? Many times they start off small, right? Suddenly they would lead maybe 2-3 people and then move on to bigger teams. So yeah, right? Is that person really equipped with what they will need to do? So do they have the leadership skills? And how do I build them before they're even named the manager, right? So that's something that I would strongly encourage and do. But in all, right, with all respect to all the other sort of training companies and so on, right? What I do miss, but we do get with Gallup, and this is something, a really amazing thing that we do get with this organization, right? And with other training companies, we usually don't, right? Or I haven't seen that yet, is that connection, from, okay, this is what the leader does. This is the structure of the conversation that the leaders should have. And then connection to the performance, right? With others, there's just a bunch of sort of, instructions, or, just Google best leader and you get like 2 million hits. I have about 200 books on leadership, right? Each of them has a different sort of guidance, right? This is what you do. You have to do a to-do list. You have to do this. You have to do that, right? So it's like everyone has his own recipe. But except Gallup, right? They do have a recipe, but they more or less tell, okay, this is a structure that, best leaders do have, and this is what they need. This is what people need, right? So we know that from Gallup perspective on psychological needs of people, the followers, right? So we do know those two, what are the conversations and what are the people needs from Gallup. And also what's really important is that connection with Gallup, those conversations, right? The best leaders, that analytical perspective, right? The best leaders do those conversations, and we know that they're the best because their teams perform best, right? So there's clear connection between business performance and those behaviors, right? And this is what I love about Gallup. It's out there, right? So you can search for it. You can YouTube podcasts today, right? What do best leaders do? What are the conversations that they have? There's 9 conversations that they have. And, if only each person, each leader would go through that, through those 1 hour, 1 hour sessions, 1 hour conversations that are available out there, right? Everyone can go for them. I mean, read the, search for them. And it's just like, okay, this is what it means to lead, right? And this is the most important conversation that I should have, right? There's one really important conversation, probably the most important one that everyone should have as a manager. It's that one weekly conversation that I have, one with the team and one with each of my individuals in the team, right? And if only every team leader did that and followed sort of that structure, right, where the point is in providing clarity to the, or discussing the clarity, right? What do we need to do as a team this week? And what do I do? What do you do? What does Mary do? What does Joe do? What do people in the team do this week, right? And if we only had this, the place would be so much better, right? Because we provide people with what's expected, we provide people with clarity, we provide them an opportunity then, at the end of the week to recognize them for what they've done. We provide them with, wow, you mean something, I listen to you. There's opportunity for them to say, I need from Mary, I need this report so I can do this, right? So there's this alignment on the beginning of the week. And if we only did this 52 times in a week, right? All the teams, every team would be so much more successful.
Whoa. It's so amazing how you also just, because at the time I was asking that question, and yes, apologies to those that might feel slighted, but the context I was talking or, asking that question was slightly different, but I love the way that you wove it around and redirected us to how we could act as effective leaders or managers. And, you also brought us home to understanding the kind of deep conversations you should have with your team. This is something I also imbibe. And sometimes it can be painstaking, in terms of when you call your teammates one after the other, you want to have a discussion with them. They probably also just think, hey, what's this guy up to? But it's necessary. And I'm glad that, you are far away there in, what part of the world are you in? Where are you based today? Where are you on this call from?
Right now, I'm in Slovenia, so middle of Europe, Central Europe. This is where I am.
So you're in the middle of Europe, and it's the same that I'm having a discussion with somebody here in Nigeria and in Abuja today, and I've had that discussion to say, hey, we must have conversations, and these conversations are critical to moving our organization forward. Okay, we have people on the call right now. It would be nice for you to join us in this conversation. One of the key things I wanted to say is that, and I'm throwing this open, is leadership overrated? Okay, that's one. Two is that, can you fully lead if you have not discovered yourself? So I'm going to be asking those in the audience. I have the big lead. I have Mr. Bimbola Jimmy B. Would you like to drop a word in this conversation, please? Okay. 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 If we'll just wait until he's able to. Mr. Shegun, would you like to drop in the conversation? I see Princess Teshri. How would you like to be in this conversation? Is leadership overrated? And does leadership require a discovery of oneself? I see Ife Jesu. Yeah. So let's hear from you. Let's hear from you. Everybody seems to be mute. Whoa. All right. So two things happen. Is it that okay, yeah, there's some. All right. Go ahead, Princess. Okay, I think Princess is in between a meeting and she probably cannot speak. Yeah, but the reality is that sometimes when these things happen, people are in between meetings or at the workplace, and they probably also don't want to start to talk, and then they say, "Oh, who are you speaking with?" But this has been an interesting discussion. I've had so much insights. I love the insights, particularly around the overdrive. I also love how you were able to weave the conversation essentially around how we can be effective as leaders by having conversations. You went on to also, talk around some of the benefits of understanding the team and how to appropriate the team to play their roles effectively. Doc, it couldn't have been a better guest than today. Oh, someone says I'm unable to speak, however, I've been following with keen interest. Oh, thank you, Princess. I guess that's much because it's only serious-minded people that come up on the strength discussion series. And so when they can't speak, then there must be a reason why they won't be speaking. And for those that will be joining us also, it's clear that I'm sure by the time you watch this replay, there are a couple of nuggets that yes, Mr. Abimbola just said an interesting discourse. Thank you, sir. So yes, we believe that the conversations cannot be ended today. It's a continuum. It keeps going on because the issues around people, particularly as a critical asset in the organization, cannot be overemphasized. And so we must constantly talk about people. We must support people, and we must encourage people to getting things done. Someone says powerful and insight. All right. Okay. Someone say, oh, okay. Mr. Abimbola says you speak as a point. Okay, but it would be nice if you have anything to just ask in terms of a question, so that Mr. Okay, Princess. Okay, yeah. So can we have Mr. Dr. Peter's profile up, or sorry, his contact details, and then we'll start to wind down shortly. It's been an amazing time. I truly, truly value you for your time. Now, one question I'd like to ask. So, with strengths, I haven't discovered strengths. How do you encourage people, or what best way would you advise people? Oh, okay. Mr. Abimbola has a question. Yes, Mr. Abimbola, you can unmute. You can unmute. You have the right to unmute, Okay. Oh, okay. He's typing out his questions. Awesome. So he's typing out his questions. He can't speak right now. I know we dropped the links to the strength discussions test in case you want to have your test done. If you also want to contact our guest, we'll display his contact shortly. And then if you need a tool to effectively organize your teams in terms of the E2Go platform, if you're a strength coach, the E2Go platform, and I'm sure Peter, okay, Peter, I'll get back to the question I wanted to ask you. So Mr. Abimbola says that as a leader in a multicultural, I'm trying to read that now, in a multicultural environment, how do you find a leadership balance? So, in a multicultural environment as a leader, how do you create or find balance?
I hope I get this one right. In a multicultural environment, right? What we do see and what I've seen working in those environments is that when you look at people's strengths, right? If I look them through Clifton strengths profile, for example, it doesn't matter what culture they are, right? So it's just that profound human being potential and talent, which I see, right, in any person. And then it's just those, and this is something that sort of, changes my way of seeing them, changes my way of looking at them. It also, gives this understanding of what these people are best at and how do they contribute. And then it's that ongoing conversations with them, which I should be having, right? How can they bring more of what they're best at? And how can I not frustrate them, too much? What it is that they need, right? How can they deliver what they're best at with what they need? So in that sense, it doesn't matter if it's one culture or multicultural, right? It's just letting everyone, every single individual, to be their best version of themselves, and just trying to leverage that, right? Me as a leader, if I'm leading a team, how do I find, is there a limit to how great these individuals can be? Probably there is, right? But there's no limit on how great they can be, how well and how frequently they can be using their talents. So in that's one way to answer it, that leadership balance, right? But if you're referring to, referring to how much time do I need to spend leading and then doing some other things as well, I think that would depend on that definition of what your role is in that particular position, right? So how much time do I have for other stuff as well, for the sort of expert stuff or the technical stuff that I need to do besides the leadership one? And I specifically said this in this way, right? So it's not how much time can I devote to leadership if I'm a people leader, but it's more how much time can I, the question for myself is how much time I can devote for the expert things that I need to sort of work on, or, deliver, do a report, go into negotiations or something like this, depending on my role. So how much time I can devote to that beside my, most important role, which is leading. I hope this answers. I hope this answers your question.
Yes, and so I never really thought about it in that light. So I've also worked in a bit of a multicultural environment. One of the things I try to do is also to sometimes get to have an understanding of the various sentiments and the individual preferences, and somehow distill this in a bit to channel a plan of action. So I recall there was a time I was leading a team of about 300 people, and they had a diverse background. One of the things that recurred to me was, how do I bring this team to the point where, first, they don't build camps, second, to the point where we harmonize all their all the nuances and even their cultural background, and then we're able to distill this, and then I was able to work with them objectively. So that's one approach. Another approach would have been, and I love what you said, is to, like, can we focus on the work that needs to be done, and there's no right answer or wrong answer to this, depending on what context, depending on at what level, you know, you easily, almost like using our strength, either as an influencer, you could influence your way to leading a multicultural team without necessarily understanding the proclivities of that team. You could use your strategic, right, thinking sentiment, and without having to, you could also use your relationship building, because so if you understand strengths, there's the component around includer, there's a component around what you have, harmony. You could also use that, and then you could also have the element around execution. So using the execution domain, right? So if you are joining us, there are 4 domains that you operate as a strength within the strengths philosophy: execution, executing, strategic thinking, influencing, and relationship building. Now, based on the fact that we understand this, I'm sure Doc is also working from the point of the executioner. All right, so let's get the job done. And I think that has been a brilliant discourse. And thank you, Mr. Abimbola, for that question. Really thought-provoking, I must say. And I'm also going to go and, further explore this, because as we're going bigger in our interactions and even in our spread, it's important that we also know how to deal with multicultural teams. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Peter, I know how much it costs to have you sit down for an hour, but it's amazing how an hour has just gone like this. And I'm wondering, we've not even scratched the surface, all right? Wow. So one of the things that I'm going to say is that this is not trying to compel you, but one of the things I would like to solicit for is that One, we're bringing you one more time, in the course of before the year runs out. That's one. Two, we have an intending People Summit coming up in October. The People Summit is geared towards workplace solutions, public sector solutions, name it, the Clifton Strengths methodology and assessment, and every other thing that will ensure that the people factor can become more supportive, productive, and profitable in their workplaces. So I know without a doubt that we will have it to grow common, even as a participant, one, and also to come and exhibit or even as a co-sponsor. So just go and start telling us what we must do to have you get us in. And this is not to put you in a corner, but it's been a brilliant discussion. And I can tell you that these discussions can go on and on. But the true reality is that the more we discuss, the more solutions are being profiled, the more answers to questions that are begging for answers, and the more people get informed. And I feel that everybody also feels that way. So I'd like to say thank you so much. Someone just joined us, Esther. In case you're just joining us, and for the first time, you could watch the replay on YouTube or on Facebook. But other than that, this is the Strength Discussion Series, and we've had an amazing time with Dr. Peter Baloh. And he's not a medical doctor, but I'm sure he's a doctor that can give you insights as to knowledge management system. Beyond that, he's a certified Gallup strength coach and a co-founder of E2Grow, a platform that enables coaches to be able to deploy, unique solutions. So we have several things that you might be interested in. If you've not done your strengths, to know your strengths, I'm sure our colleagues have dropped it in there. We have the contact of Dr. Peter Baloh, CEO and Chief Impact Architect of E2Grow. He'll be willing and more than able to guide you if you need any support. And I'm your host, as usual, Taiwo Adepoju. So we could also always be connecting either on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Dr. Peter, final words, please. Final words, and let's wrap this up. Tell us in closing what your final words are to our audience for today.
Yeah, no, truly enjoyed the time here. It's always great to talk about our passions, and this is this was those moments, right, when we think about through what we are, the time just flies by, right? And these are the situations sort of that you could just repeat on and on, basically. But yeah, no, I would just say the only thing that truly matters is how each of us feel. So how do we feel as individuals? How do we strive to be better in a way, right? How effortlessly we reach our successes? How do we enjoy life? How do we thrive life at work, at home, with ourselves as well? So I just want to say, right, that mastery is just a journey, right? The mastery on its own is just like, it's a concept, right? It's a never ending and never reaching probably concept, but it's just the journey that we so much enjoy, right? And this is something that would be my words, or just keep enjoying that and keep doing that, keep discovering who you are, because the answer to life is in you.
Whoa! I love that closing statement. And one of the phrases I'm going to be closing today with is that mastery is a journey. And in this journey, make sure you enjoy yourself, because everything there is in you. Wow. And I couldn't have said it better. And on this note, we'd like to say thank you, Miss Doctor, please pardon me, Dr. Peter Baloh. And I'd like to say greetings to the people in Slovenia. Yes, and to all those that are watching us and watching the replay, I'm saying catch you next time, about this time next week. We'll be bringing in another interesting and amazing guest, all right? And thank you so much for attending to us. Thank you, audience, and I wish you a wonderful week. Stay bright and play to your strengths, because you've got it in you.